Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to welcome everyone to our Road and Shop Committee meeting on Friday, June the 30th, 2023. Mr. Bill, could we have the roll call?
Mr. Byrd. Here. Mr. McCormick.
Here.
Mr. Spolvedale.
Here.
Mr. Garcia. Mr. Chairman, you have 3 members of the committee present.
All right. Mr. Bill, would you lead us in prayer, and Mr. McCormick lead us in the pledge, please, sir?
Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day that Thou have given us. We ask that Thou bless us and be with us as we discuss the problems that we face this day, that we might reach decisions that are beneficial to the citizens of the parish, that we might discuss these things calmly and reach good decisions. We ask a blessing on all of our officials, federal, state, and local. Please guide them in all the things they do. We ask this most humbly in the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of the Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Bill and Mr. McCormick. Do we need to amend the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I got one amendment. It's be a short amendment, but I want to discuss and possibly take action on cell phone for a couple of employees, Sabine Parish employees.
Okay. Do you want to add that today, or are you going to wait till then on that cover, on the hand? We might as well do it now. You want to do it today?
Since we won't have to allow them to get done.
Okay. Do you have all the detailed information on it with
That's
you?
all we need to talk about.
Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and add it, and then you can move along with that.
Okay.
So we're going to discuss a handicap. Oh, what would it be?
A handicap driveway.
Driveway. Okay.
I also recommend that we put these, we're getting into some deeper stuff, that we put these up early, maybe after public comment.
Yes, sir. That'd be fine. All right. So I have a motion that we amended. Did I get a motion on the amendment?
I make the motion that we amend the agenda.
Second by Byrd. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. I have a motion that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Make that motion.
Motion by Byrd,
Second.
second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion. So you want to add these as 7A and B? Would that be okay? Okay. Public comments. We have any public comments? Yes, sir.
Mr. Pratt, want to grab that before you start?
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so I have one comment about an agenda item and then a couple things from Bobby. If I could take up this, but let me just make this kind of off the cuff. I think when you guys add things to the agenda like this, that you probably ought to allow for comments during the discussion or immediately before the discussion. Agenda items are added. I think it's fine. You know, we've got the agenda, we know what's on it. Sometimes we can actually figure that out. When you add things, that's not part of it. So I suggest that you allow that.
Just to answer a little bit of that, Ms. Pat, that we've been letting people in our committee meetings talk. So, I mean, as these things come up on the agenda,
Okay.
Yeah.
you're allowed to talk.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off on the boards. And I just have a suggestion
Here,
on the
here.
boards. This is from some of the comments that I've heard about board members. You have problems with them showing up for meetings, and I think I've heard a couple of them live out of state and have for several years, that kind of thing. just like to suggest for these boards that, you make it where if somebody misses 2 meetings in a row or something like that, that they're off the board. You know, I mean, if people are not gonna come to the board meeting, then there's not any benefit of them being on the board. You know, they're not even showing up, so, you know, I don't know what the idea is. You know, I think if you're not gonna come to the meeting, you ought to just resign. But if they don't, and they don't show up for the meetings, then I think you should just take them off. Okay, Bobby. So, you know what, I see a lot of progress in the road department and the stuff you guys are doing from a year ago, when we're dumping limestone on the roads and thinking people are gonna drive over and that kind of thing. The work you're doing on Pilcher, you, work you guys are doing on Pilcher, I think it's great. I think it's, you know, you're digging out the base failure, refilling it with ground cement or sand or whatever that stuff is that you're putting in there. And so I want to compliment you, and I'd like for you to pass that on to your workers about the work they're doing. I've been down there looking at that. They're very thorough. They're routing traffic well, so they're taking care of the job, doing everything good. So I see a lot of progress there. And thank you for that. So, good work. It's good. There's a couple things I think you still improve on. Okay. So first off, I think you probably, for that ground cement that they put in the base failures, I think you probably wanted to wet that, but you didn't have a way to do that. You didn't have a water truck. And I'd suggest maybe you see if these guys can get you a couple. I think that'd help on some of these dusty roads. I'm thinking pump station particularly. I know Pilcher's gonna be a little bit dusty. That's probably not a real big issue because there's not too many houses right on Pilcher. But I think you could benefit from that. And the other thing is you might think about some of these volunteer fire departments, maybe they come out here with a fire engine and let that stuff down. Not necessarily the road, but the spot you're filling. But you might think about that one. So the other thing, and again, I'd suggest that you think about adding the position of road inspector. What you're doing, you know, that's the guy that can come out there and let them know if they dug down far enough. Know be sure what to do. But anyway, really good. One other thing, on a lot of these roads, I'm still seeing where the asphalt was left up and the sides weren't pulled back. I think I mentioned that a couple meetings back. So if you get these guys to do that, that'd be good.
No, I'm not understanding.
You talking about?
I don't understand. Tell me again what you're saying.
Okay, so like Matthews Lodge, for example, 0476, where the asphalt was put down,
Mhm.
and there's a drop.
Mhm.
There's about a 2-inch drop. And that's a safety hazard because somebody could get fired on that.
I'm with you now.
You know what
I'm with you now.
So if you get them to pull it back, I don't think, hopefully not that much effort, but I think it'd be a safety thing. Oh, also, good work on the ditches and culverts. On
Thank you.
Pilcher. You guys did a real great job on that, so appreciate it. Okay,
Sir, thank
that's all I have.
Any other public comments?
Can I just make a comment on?
Yes, sir.
About volunteer fire departments come out with water. Technically, in Sabine Parish, most of our water districts aren't fire districts. And they're not supposed to be taking the water. They're supposed to be paying for the water, and they don't, so that could be a conflict of interest.
We have a lot of resistance. I don't say resistance, but fire departments aren't real willing to do that because of the cost of the water.
Right, well, they don't pay for it.
But also,
Come on, eat our water all the time, and stuff is dry, and
But I'm not-
we don't get a dime out of it. They're supposed to report it, and they don't, but that's,
well, and like,
They're supposed to.
most of them are volunteer fire departments and they're in fight fires and not out watering roads
the
for,
water systems
Yeah.
were not set up for fire protection.
Yeah.
Technically, they're supposed to pull the water out of the lake and out off.
Your system's right.
Which they do, but
And
no one says anything.
Last meeting, we did say about getting a water truck.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I think we should, and if we could find a paper in there somewhere, we could probably pull some water out. So you guys are welcome, by the way, fire department, your water truck, or whoever, in my driveway, which goes all the way down to the lake, fill up there anytime you want. Just let me know if you're gonna do it, so.
Well,
I'll park my car.
Yeah, that has to be through a permit from the SRA when you do that, to draw water out of the lake, so.
Okay.
I mean, you have to pay for it. Usually it's metered. But anyway,
Ain't no more free water.
ain't no more free water.
You
Yeah,
have to get us a holding tank and hope it rains, ain't it?
yeah, get some gutters off of.
Yeah. All right, if there's no other public comments, we'll move on to item 7A.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's a policy of the Sabine Parish Police Jury that we give people that use their cell phones on their job extensively or a lot. In most cases, it's their private phones. We don't furnish. We give an option of either having a company phone or a private phone. And in most cases, if they'd like to just keep their own phone, and we give them a $50 for using their own phone to go towards it. And it's a couple of people that I think we've left out of that. There's two of them actually. One in this office here, and Mr. Bill can say yay or nay, or don't think we need it here. But one of them is Lindy. She uses her phone all the time too for texting us. I mean, I've probably got 5 messages from her this morning. And the other is Ashley out at the road office. She's in constant contact with our road foremans and also a lot of our vendors and whatever. So she's on her. They can't text unless they're using their own, and we got to where we communicate a lot by text. So I would like to consider and make a recommendation to the full board that we add those two people to our list of employees that qualify for the $50 stipend. Do you agree that,
I have no problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with,
Yeah.
Mr. McCormick. They use their phones extensively.
Yes, I also agree. I know Lindy's forever sending us reminders and questions, and I know as a lot of times I need to come in and sign documents. She's always scheduled me to come in, and she uses her phone a lot. So sometimes when I get ready to call, I'll call her phone thinking I'm calling to the office. So, but and also Ashley. I know Bobby and Bobby stays out on the roads, and our road foreman, she communicates a lot. She takes care of a lot of business off her personal phone. She from time to time she'll handle a whole situation by herself just on the phone. So even if it's looking for a piece of equipment or whatever, but and a lot of it's after hours.
yeah,
you know,
it is.
so.
Yeah, and all kind of things come through that Linda's looking at on her phone. She'll text me about it or whatever. But
Right.
so I'd like to make the motion that we ask the full board to approve that.
Okay. We got a motion by Mike, second by Bird. Any other comments on this?
I think it's a
Good.
great idea. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. All right, let's move on to item B would be,
Well, this is just recommended.
moving on to B would be a handicap driveway, Mr. Hughes.
We have a resident that came and approached us about helping him in his driveway. The address is 185 Gibson Lane and down off Yellow Pine. And I went and looked. We satisfied all the requirements. I've got all the paperwork. I can provide that to Bill. And it's going to take not even a load of rock. It's not bad at all, but it's important to him. He's got one little area that needs some attention, so I mean it'll take an hour of work and maybe half a load of rock. So,
Is that
Yellow Pine, that's gonna be
three.
three.
well, whenever these things come up and they meet all of our handicap requirements, do we need to bring that to the full board or do we?
I'm gonna check how we did that, the ordinance. I'm not sure, but we always have.
Okay.
We've always brought to the board for full.
Well, I
that's
think
what-
it's good for oversight to do that,
Yes,
but
yes.
yeah,
Anytime I've ever done, I've always brought to the board.
okay.
Okay. Do I have any other discussions on this? All right, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Byrd,
I'll second.
second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay. All right, item 8 would be discuss responsibility of placement of 911 signs. We covered some of this in our monthly meeting, but I guess I don't know if we need to put this in a form of a resolution for her or somehow on the 911 signs as far as public and private. So I'm thinking the best I can remember our understanding was if that 911 sign is off a public road, which is a parish road, then we can put the sign there. But if that is a private road, we could put the sign out on our right of way. But any sign that's down in one of those that is considered private, within that the developer or residents would be responsible for those signs. Is that correct?
Well, that's what, like I say, an understanding, of like the new subdivisions, some of the roads that y'all don't take care of.
Melinda, would you and Pete come up here and sit in these chairs so we're recording this, and if people speak a little bit into the microphones, that enhances the quality of our recordings.
Okay.
Louis, I mean,
You're
wanna
welcome
come
to
up
sit
here?
here if you would like. As long as you don't elbow too hard, we'll be all right.
Try not to.
Yeah.
I'm riding it up.
Just kind of pull your microphones toward you a little bit too.
Okay.
Okay, so, I mean, we're very thankful that the police jury does put out road signs, for us. I had gotten a list from Lindy about, the roads that y'all, considered on y'all's list and everything else, and matched it with our map list of the roads that we have within the parish. And there's a lot, and we had mentioned, that y'all don't take care of. There's a lot of the new subdivisions that I understand that y'all don't take over. And some of them y'all don't take over at all, but it's a 2-year wait
Right.
before, y'all take over those roads and everything else. Just trying to get an understanding of,
Right.
Well, the way we work at the plan department is we send them to you, so they're not just, years ago, they'd name a road and you could have had 5 of them in the parish. And when 911 came in, they started cleaning that up.
Mhm.
And that's where they started the road list and all that. So every road that's supposed to go through the plan, they're supposed to come to you and get the names approved. And if they're private, they're private. We suggest they buy the signs from you because the state back then wanted all the signs uniform in color and that for 911 purposes. But, people were putting up wood road signs, they were putting up tin road signs, nothing was uniform years ago. So
Right.
they made it where you go through 911, the developer's supposed to purchase the signs from them. And back then it was a courtesy that the signs were being put up. But I understand now what the way the regs are is that they can't go on to private roads, the parish, because it's benefiting the developer, not the parish. So that's what I'm under the understanding. And I try to tell the developers that's go purchase your signs, give me the receipt, and you'll have to put them up now. That's the new thing we're doing.
Yeah, and I think we recommended at the last meeting that anything that's on the, say, state highways or on private roads, that the best avenue would be to hire a contractor
Mhm.
to do that. And so do we need an ordinance, just state that, Bill, or what should we do? Do you have anybody else have anything to add to that? That's,
Are you saying that we would hire a
No,
person?
that-
No,
She would hire.
she
She would
would.
hire a
She would.
contractor.
That's on private.
private or state
Private
roads.
But how
Well,
can you hire someone?
no, she can't. It'd have to be it's the developer's
Oh, the
responsibility
developers, yeah.
Yeah.
to get the signs put up.
Okay, so, I mean, I've got 3 subdivisions here that have been signed by the planning commission that I had no idea about until people were buying deals that had been signed off, and they didn't even check with the roads.
Okay, the road should have been checked.
I'm gonna say there's 3 subdivisions right here that people
Okay.
are calling for lots that I'm going, what are you talking about? Queen Bee, Killing
Now, see,
Time. And then
These
these-
were Tori Kathy, and she told me she'd come through you.
See, I hadn't even talked to Tori Kathy.
Okay.
And,
And that's my fault then.
you know,
I-
and
right.
then this one down here,
This one here.
you know, that's at the end of Caribbean. So, and
Yeah.
then, you know, these, and we
Right.
had talked about it before, they're wanting to make these long road signs that's taking 2 posts to put up because the first wind that comes along wants to, you know, do like that. So I've
Right.
tried to short it down to like an 18 or 24-inch sign, the road names, because the wind and it's just tearing them up, and it's costly to replace these signs. Even after, you know, to start from this forward, I know we can't do things that happened in the past, all these road signs that's already been named. But going forward, you know, the road signs that y'all are taking care of, these long signs, we're having to put up 2 posts. Well, that's, you know, trying to cut it down now, start where it's
Right.
kind of limited to the number of spaces that these road signs are taking up. So we're not putting road signs up that are 40 inches that,
Right.
you know.
Is there a reason, is it a good thing for your office making these signs for people?
Oh, it's a hassle. I'm not gonna sit there and tell you it's a
Why
hassle.
can't we have something
mean-
where we have a guideline of this is what a standard street sign is, and have developers purchase their own street signs rather than her having to make them and then having to deal with
I
putting them
mean,
up. It's
we're
part of
making
their
the signs
development.
anyway. We have all the, you know, we're making them anyway.
But you make plenty of
Oh, we
replacement
make,
signs
we
because we
make
give you-
40 to 50 signs a month.
right.
I had one developer come in yesterday from Lakeside Hideaway, and one of his signs was already missing. And I was like,
And he's private road, so.
a private
And I-
road, so
I've
I'm,
never
So
understood
he's a-
why are we continuing to make those signs for private developments?
You're
That's-
not. I mean, if they come in there and Miss Melinda wants to
We
make
are,
the
aren't we?
signs
Aren't we?
and charge.
yeah,
the
we're
replace-
charging $65 a sign. This is what we've always done in
One
the
time
past.
though, right?
Charge $65 and we would replace it thereafter.
We
Well,
are replacing them.
Well, no, you shouldn't on a private road. If it goes missing, they should repay again because it's a private road. It
That's
should
what
be
I'm
the parish's responsibility.
Well, that's the way I see it too, as a developer, but,
That's the way it is.
but what,
If it's a private road, it's the homeowners association. If the developer's not there, or if the developer's
But
still
then there's
working on it.
some of
it's
these,
responsibility.
some of these subdivisions are years and years and years old. I mean, it's no longer
yeah,
a developer involved.
not talking just new, just
So-
years.
So it's, when a sign goes missing, we want 911 to have signs. I mean, it says
Right.
road. So we need some way, if it's still the homeowners association, whoever is taking care of that subdivision, it's their responsibility, but we need some way to enforce that they have to have a sign up. And
For emergencies, for whenever
Yeah.
you're.
Right, I would think
First
that'd be under the
responder.
911 ordinance of the parish already, that the signs have to be in place.
Is that, do you know anything about that, Melinda?
About the sign.
Is it mandatory that you have a sign up? Can you enforce that?
Is there ordinance on that?
Well, with the last, let's see here, I got a deal where it was talking about the naming of the roads, and like I say, it was just the name of the roads. I don't think there's anything that they have to. I know there was a deal to where they could be fined if they got stealing a sign, you know,
So-
stuff like that. But the sheriff's
So
office.
there's
don't even
no
enforce
ordinance,
that.
there's
Not
not
that I
an
have
ordinance in
seen.
Sabine Parish that says you have to have a 911 sign.
Right.
I thought there was when 911 first came in, that would probably be.
I've looked back in minutes and I didn't see anything
Okay.
as far as through our stuff.
Because when 911 comes.
We will
you say
have,
That's what, 30 years ago now?
Well,
the
have
94.
1992. Y'all check into that.
1992.
Building
But it's
and
just,
alley, they'll check into
you
that
know,
about an
and
ordinance.
then-
If not, I think that would be
I think that,
probably a good starting point.
Yeah.
you know, and then it's just contacting these people like that because they're not going to come and it's going to be missing and they're not going to come and
right.
repay for a sign to put up. I mean, they're just, the
Hey,
post time that, I mean, go ahead.
So
Go
they
ahead.
need to have some- Pete, are we requiring anyone who's planning to develop a subdivision to get a copy of the regulations before they start, like
Yeah.
we were set up in the beginning? Do we have a master list of who's got them and who hadn't?
I don't think we ever had a master's list.
We had one at
Just
one
They
time,
come in and
and they had to prove that they had developed one before and had a copy of the regulations. If they didn't, of course, the first thing in the regulations is it says you got to have that
right.
set of
Well,
regulations.
most of the people that are developing are multiple time. There's not a lot of new people coming into the parish.
Well, a lot of these people that are developing, they're doing the developing, but then they're going under somebody like Tori Cathy, who's telling you they're doing something when they're not.
Yeah.
So
And that's
we need to hold the developers.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
and then they're like that, and we keep the road, the post out at the road office because I can't have them up here in my office. So these developers, they're gonna come and pay for the sign. And they're gonna go out to the road office and get the brackets and the post and put them out. And how are they?
So why are we going through that?
That's what I'm
Why are
saying.
we doing that?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we need a new ordinance that make a criteria of what the sign has to be. You know what I'm saying? So they're all uniform. That was the main thing, was to get all the signs uniform in the parish. You know, because like I said before, you'd have red and white signs, you'd have wooden signs, you'd have that, and they wanted the green reflective road signs when the 911 came in. And that's when the 911 office took that job over. And back then, they had a gentleman that they paid to go out and install the signs. That was his job. He went around and, you know, replacing signs, putting new signs in and all that.
The regulations say the first thing they're supposed to do is get a hold of the person who has the master list and find out whether it's a
Right.
duplicate name or
Mhm.
something, and
Yeah.
something that can be used. And that's when she would tell them, we can't handle 18 letter
Right.
name.
You know, and no more Bayou, no more Pine Street, no more, there's sort of Cypress, you know, 'cause we
Yeah.
have so many road names, you know, and.
That's the thing. They have to clear the road name
Mhm.
from
Right.
you first. I mean, that's
Mhm.
one of the rules, right?
Mhm.
And at that time,
These are my
once
fault, 'cause I didn't check.
once they do that, you give them a specification of the sign, and that includes the color, the size, and so forth.
Right.
Right.
And like I say, and then I guess they pay the developer and then they come by the, you know, and then I guess there's special tools to put in the little bracket, you know, to attach
Not
it to
really.
the sign.
I think we need to get away from that. I mean, I've never understood why we do that, why we make their signs, you know, or we provide posts for them. It's an expense. It's part of their development. They
Yeah,
should,
but if
we should
it's
get,
an expense, they should be paying you for.
Right, they should
They
be
should
paying for
pay
the
it.
post brackets and everything.
I think
Everything
we
like that.
should,
If it's $200 for their sign, that's what they should be paying for the sign.
Right.
okay.
And then,
But why don't we just in our ordinance have a drawing of a sign, stated what it is, it's this level of reflectivity, it's
and the
this,
size.
and the size and the color, and the type of post, we can have that in there, and this is what you use. You don't get it from us. Why are we going through that if, that's what I'm wondering.
Because it never got done. They wouldn't do it because they go find
They
a
wouldn't do it.
cheap way of
Then-
doing it.
Then they wouldn't pass their inspection.
But back then, the jury,
Now, I'm talking about back then, we're talking about now, what we're
Yeah.
looking to change, right? Isn't that what we're talking about today?
Yeah.
Well, one of my concerns, and Bobby, I see your point, but one of my concerns is what if they don't get a sign that is reflected or meets
Right.
those standards?
Then
Well, that's what he
they
said.
won't pass our
Well,
inspection.
but then what if there's a lady down there in emergency and they can't find her because of the
no, what
911
he's
sign?
saying is make it in the ordinance, when we do the new ordinance, that you don't get a final approval on your subdivision unless this is in place
Okay.
and done. It's just like in the ordinance, I go out and check to make sure every stake is on every lot before they get a final approval. I go down there, I drive the road, I make sure front stakes are in, rear stakes are in, curvature stakes are in, that's all there. So we could put it in there that these road signs have to be in place at that time too, in the ordinance. Simple as that.
But is
I
it,
mean, that's up to Melinda. If you want to continue making them for the private
I mean-
people, that's fine. I mean, that's yours.
Right.
But they're not gonna get it made cheaper than what she.
And
Right.
Right.
I mean, a
Well,
post,
but-
I mean, I got a price list.
And she's
what we
set
get
up
ourselves-
already
And you
to
set
make.
up for it.
I mean, that would be
Right.
the easiest. but
Right. I mean,
would
we don't mind
simply
making
charge
them. We
them
make
for
them
it.
a lot and we charge. It's this, it's the after fact. Okay. So we charge them $65. A post is $35, you know, depending on what size sign and everything else. So $65 pretty much covers that for the original time. Well, when that sign goes missing the second time, if they come back to me to replace it, are they going to come back
They-
and pay for me, pay again? I mean,
think
if
that's
the
what I
post
would
was
do.
there, they
I would make them-
should.
They should.
They
Yeah.
So
should,
that's private.
but
Yeah. Now, if it's a
but-
parish road that's been established and the 2 years is up, that's where, I guess that's when the parish takes over.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But anything that's private, it should be homeowners association or developer.
And I think that's where and I may be wrong, but I think that's where a lot of your issue is on private.
then they,
we
the
have-
subdivisions, because
Yeah,
it
well,
sounds like to me, we're gonna have to hire somebody to put up, like the Adair Lane, the Addison Avenue, the Austin Lane, these.
but if that sign, and I may be wrong, but if that sign is on the parish right of way, even though it's a private road, but if that sign is on the parish right of way, then we can do it, right?
I think so.
we can, but
Right.
should we, if it's a private, if it's a private deal?
But it's in the parish right of way. You can't put it down the road where they at, because nobody wouldn't see the sign.
Right. But
It has to be out on the right of way.
Most of the time, a lot of times they putting them up on the stop signs. You know, when they go out and put our roads up, they put them on top of the stop signs.
Well, what I'm thinking of is a development, because there's seldom that we put up one sign. You know, we get
right.
a stack of signs to put up in this development.
Mhm.
You know, so now we're talking about, are we gonna do one sign and then leave the rest? You
Yeah.
know?
That's
So-
what we're talking about
Yes.
doing. That is going to be the developer's responsibility.
So we're just
so-
talking
so-
subdivisions, new
So in
subdivisions
new
only.
subdivisions that are being developed, why would we, like, I'm the only one thinking this, but why would we want to do one sign out of 37? Why
Well,
wouldn't
no,
we just?
we should make it the ordinance that the initial signs are put up by the developer and they have to be in place for their final.
We don't need that ordinance. We have it in our regulations already. Signs, the developer shall be responsible for the erection of all street name signs, traffic
Yeah,
control
but
signs.
those regulations were so old that the police jury took them out several years
They
later.
did not. They made ordinances making exceptions there. They have not taken them out, that you took them out.
Well, they were taken out by the jury years ago because back, like I said, the 911 department had a gentleman that was doing it for them, and that's when it kind of got done away with.
The regulations have been there, you just hadn't enforced them.
We need to make sure we have a current set of
So,
all
ordinance
the,
that you have, when was the date? When
This
is this date?
this was 92, and y'all made 4 or 5 updates, including one in 2016. Was the last update y'all made.
I think we need to get that latest update.
Yeah.
Look at that.
But that latest update was just on one particular thing. At that time, they were requiring a person to post a bond on the subdivision.
But it
Y'all-
doesn't cover our whole ordinance though.
No, it was just amendments to it.
Oh, okay.
So the about the signs here, as far as you know, it had to be changed since the original.
No,
ordinance. But y'all check on that.
So I think we all need to get on the same page.
Yeah.
And we may just
Mm-hmm.
redo a new ordinance. So
I think that'd be the best thing to do.
'Cause I-
Like on the plats, it says the plat shall show developer's name, address, and telephone number. We're getting them. It doesn't have that information on it.
I think they've all had it on there.
This is the latest one that I didn't have.
As far as the separate copy of the plan and regulation must be obtained prior to beginning each and every separate individual development or part thereof, and prior to submission of any proposed plat for consideration by the commission, unless the developer can show that he has an up-to-date copy with any and all amendments to the ordinance has been obtained from the police jury, where upon developers' name shall be affixed to the master list at no
I had no
cost.
idea.
That was ordinance number 4 of 93.
How can we enforce those things? If they don't do it, what do we do? Can we, withhold other permits, electrical permits or something like that? I mean, is that part of the building code? I mean, if they don't,
I don't know. I mean, we're fixing to get educated.
yeah, I would ask Jim to be here, but I think that a lot of this needs to be coordinated between several different groups, 911, planning commission, health unit, building inspection. I mean, all that comes into play when you're trying to develop something. And even though, this is something we talked about at our EDC meeting, is that it'd be nice if some of these developers or business people that's trying to put in a business has one place that they can get all of it. I mean, we can hand them the ordinances and different things that they need to live by. You know, have that all accumulated in one place where they can go to one place, get the rules and regulations, and then they've got it. But if they don't do that, and just start doing something on their own without going through the planning commission or the other entities, then we need some way to say, hey, we can shut you down. I mean, that's the only way you can enforce it.
Well, a lot of them engineers got to draw up a plan for the water and all, where to lay it and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all that needs to come into play, you know?
Well, you do have to have an engineer for the water lines and that now. That's state regulations.
You guys might also want to check on what the parish right of way is.
Parish what? I'm sorry, I didn't
You're
hear.
50 foot.
How much is the parish right of way?
No, I didn't hear what you said. I'm
You
sorry.
might want to check, if you're talking about putting street signs in the parish right of way.
Yeah.
You might want to check and see how much right of way you have.
Yeah.
Because what I found is, you don't have. Now, that may be wrong.
We don't have a right of way?
That's what I'm hearing.
Well-
No, there's a right of way on the road right of way is a 50-foot width on a parish road. It could be narrow on a public road. And most of them have a utility right of way,
Utility, you're right.
have a utility easement, and you could put it in the utility easement because the sign would be considered in a utility easement. So
That may be-
every one of them has,
that
the
may be-
utility.
I know the state roads have, they have a right of way.
Right.
State.
And like none of them the same.
nope,
Like the width, none of them the same.
nope.
Well,
Well, they
So,
say
a lot of-
place, if it's a major road, it's 50 feet, and if it's a secondary road, it's 40.
Some of them 35.
Some are 20.
number 20, yeah.
I haven't been able to find anything
Right.
about parish right of way, and in fact.
No, it's in the regulations that
Mark Carver being one of them, who said that, they've got in trouble before, for example, by digging ditches or cutting trees in areas that they thought were parish right of way, and then they found out that there isn't. So I'm just saying, I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
But you might want to check and see, maybe check with Don Burkett or Bill or somebody and find out what the parish right of way is.
Yeah, it's gonna be a road to road basis because some of the older roads, I can tell you, I
Right.
can take you down the road right now, down off 1215. You know how wide that approved parish road is? 9 feet.
Well, and that's the problem. A lot of these roads evolve for four-wheeler trails. And I know we have regulations here that says that, and I guess this is for roads that we develop, but it's residential, minor street, and cul-de-sacs is 50 feet. Residential principal streets are 60 feet, commercial and industrial 70 feet, collector street 70 feet, major artery is 80, expressway or parkway is 150. That,
See, now that commercial industrial doesn't apply anymore because back in 1990 something, the jury did away with commercial zone, did away with zoning. There is no zoning, so there is no.
so there's no such
separation
thing as
between
commercial,
commercial
yeah.
And all that. They just went strictly non-zone.
So the rule of thumb was a 50-foot. If it's, a parish road is 50 foot. If it's a private road, they can do down to whatever they need for their thing. Because they're maintaining it. If it's only a private road for 2 houses, it could be a 15-foot right away. If it's, or they could put 100 foot. It's up to them, but the parish minimum was 50 feet. And that's how it's set back then, when they took away all that zoning and that.
Well, all those roads that just evolved,
Yeah,
there was no right of way there. I mean,
at
there
one
was
time
just,
there wasn't any,
yeah. So, like you said, 9 feet on one, 20 feet. I see a lot of them is 20 feet.
Yeah.
And you go back to try to establish that. We're having a surveyor try to establish that on one area now where we've always just kind of considered the back slope when we don't have one as the road right of way.
Right.
But, to try to find out.
Now there is a thing that you might want to check with Don Burkett, that if you've been, it's like when we lay a water line at a water company, some of our water lines are probably 40 years old. And back then they didn't get a utility easement right away to run them water lines, but they've been there over so many years, it becomes a right of way. And you might check on some of these roads where that road's been in there for 30, 40 years and at such a width and it's in such a place. It's a parish road. They might not have, the person might say it's their property, but they lost control of it years ago because it's been there and in place for so long. And Don Burkett would be able to tell you that because there is an ordinance, I know on that, because we run into that with the water company quite a few times.
30 years.
How many?
Fence is 30 years.
Well, 30 years on a fence and you own it. But I know there's something else on a utility easement that is, I think it's 10 or 15 years if it's been there. And I know there's got to be one for roads too.
So, but let's cover the signs. Let's get on the signs.
Yeah.
And get some clarification from Miss Melinda on the signs.
No, that's like I say, because I mean, I have a list here, like I say, those streets here. If they're on the right of way, police jury would put them out anyway. Why would we be hiring somebody to put up the signs if it wasn't, and we're talking about just subdivision? I mean, where would it be a situation besides a new subdivision where we would have to hire somebody to put out signs if the sign's in the right of way?
I agree with you. It should be the responsibility of the developer or those people down there.
For the
And
new-
that's
for the
why-
subdivisions.
And that's why, since I've been here, we've always put them up, and I mean, I don't see why we can't continue to put them up to keep your office from having to. And I know it's putting a lot on our guys, but a lot of times,
Yeah, but if it's not an approved parish road.
But I'm
it
talking about
shouldn't be.
our roads,
Right, right.
our parish roads.
Unapproved.
Yeah.
You got to make the ordinance read that if it's on an approved parish road, that's,
Right.
If it's a developer and his 2 years isn't up and it gets knocked down, his responsibility to replace it.
Right.
But I guess
There should be something in there that,
Yeah, it should be his responsibility from the time he developed it to the 2 years to the clock to they
Right.
officially
and
come
if it's a
on
private
out.
road, it becomes the
Because once-
responsibility of the homeowner
Right,
association.
And once the parish adopts that road in whatever it is, within that responsibility becomes part of the parish.
Right.
as
well,
far as
yeah, and I
signage.
guess that's my confusion is that how can we regulate what the developers are doing if it's a private development?
Because it's part of his
Because you
thing
got
to get
this right
the
here.
development
You have a-
done.
Yeah.
Sabine Parish development.
That's part of the planning commission
Okay.
that has that oversight, I would think.
Right, we do. And like I said, I understand Lewis is reading that ordinance from 1992. Like I said, that sort of got thrown out of place.
It still is relevant today as it was in 92. It's just
It
not
is,
followed.
but what I'm saying, Lewis, is it got done away with over the years because of what was being done through the 911 office, where they were going out and installing the signs. They started installing. And we just made the developer go and make sure he got the road okay and got the signs, purchased the signs. So now we got to go back to the old way where I'm going to have to check for them signs that and we make the developer put them up, simple as that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do. Just go back and make sure that, review the 92 ordinance or whatever.
And go back to
And
that.
let's-
because like I
let's
said,
see
that- Because back in 92, when it came in, there were so many street signs coming up. 911 office hired a gentleman,
Right.
and he went around and did all the signs. And I can't remember who was in charge when it first came in. Then I know we had Mavis, and she had a gentleman that put it in, and they took care of it for the developers, so there was no problems. They knew where it was, knew where they wanted it placed, done. But we'll just go back to the 92 where it's going to be the developer's responsibility.
Right.
That's all.
And hold them to it.
The only
Well,
place
we
I
do
see a
it.
problem is that if it's someone who is not going to ask for it to be taken into the parish road system.
No,
We're
because
covered,
if
we're
it's-
covered on the ones that are gonna ask to be
No,
taken
if it's a
in.
private road, it's got to go through a planning commission.
But
Still,
still, after.
and they're
the-
going to have their road name okayed, and then
Yeah.
we're going to just have to make it in the ordinance where I'm going to have to go out there and inspect and make sure that sign's in place before you get your
Yeah,
final
on the front
approval.
end, but after 2 years, if they decide they do not want to be taken into the parish system, then how are we gonna handle the signs, is what I'm saying there.
It's considered, it's going to be the developer or the homeowners association to have it replaced when it's down, if it's reported.
Yeah,
Simple
but
as
that was my question a few minutes ago, is that if they don't do it, how do we enforce it? And that's where we need.
'Cause they're not, I mean, they don't buck when they have to pay the $65, but I had one come in yesterday on the Lakeside Hideaway subdivision that used to be JB Walker. And he's like, he's already missing a sign. I'm making, well, it's fixing to, I said, I had a meeting today to find out, and everything else, you're going to be responsible for replacing that sign. Well, when I bought the subdivision it was last year, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we pay $65 and y'all going to replace it. Well, that's fixing to change. You're going to be responsible for
Right.
it. He says,
Yeah.
well, if I would have come 2 weeks ago, I would have got it for free. No, Mom, that's not, no.
But if you
know?
go into some, if you go into,
I didn't know that when I didn't even know that you guys were replacing them free of charge after you put one up. I thought there was always, if the development was still going on, because it was in the 2 years, I thought they had to repay. Because how many times does a developer get a sign and he got his dang kid's name on it, and the kid comes there and says, I want that street sign.
but once the
I can tell you, I've known that to happen.
But once the development is developed
Right.
and the developer is no longer on site and around or involved,
Then it's up to the
homeowners, and if they don't have a homeowners, or if they decide, that they're not going to do that, we still want 911 to know how to get to people. So how do we enforce those people to put up a sign?
guy.
It would
Good
have to be
question.
some language, I guess we would need to get with Don on that. It would have to be some language in that ordinance that
Yeah.
covers that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have several developments out there that's private developments.
Right.
That
That
the
are private
developers are
roads.
gone. I mean, they're all private developers
Yeah.
gone. So how do you enforce
Because most,
signs?
because I'll be honest with you, most of the ones that are private roads, they have a homeowners association, so they could maintain their roads.
But should a homeowners association
Be like,
be part of our planning? They
yeah,
have
it
to.
should
They
be,
have
and
to
we
be.
gotta get some wording on that. Like you were saying, maybe from Don Burkett to put that into an ordinance.
I think that would be the way to handle it.
That's the way to handle it. And
Yeah.
then, once you get that ordinance, they'll be having to, we could have them sign off on that ordinance at the 911 office that they're aware of that. That's the easiest thing to do.
And like I say, okay, so like on these other street signs, like Austin Lane, you know where Austin Lane is up there? And y'all don't cover that road,
No,
but
and that's off the state highway.
so would y'all put that line up? It's in the right of way,
That's a state right of way. It's not a parish
parish
right
right of way. So that's where we would come in having to hire somebody to go to putting up these other signs.
Or it ain't but one landowner there, homeowner there.
Right, I do not name roads that,
Right,
I do
so
not name
that
driveways
case-
anymore.
And and that's a good example. In that case, it would be left up to the property owner to put that sign up.
Can do it, they're not.
Well, they wouldn't have one then.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying they're not, and
Well, see,
I don't
that-
name
I
roads.
understand.
I don't
what you're
name
saying.
roads anymore unless
Right.
there's 3 or more houses on a road because
Right,
I'd be
right.
naming everybody's driveway.
Yeah,
You
when
have to have
911
three.
was first put in, anything over 200
Everything.
feet, they put a road name on it.
Right.
And
And
it wasn't
now-
a road, it was a driveway.
And I don't change, I mean, I know there was an ordinance where you change road names and I'm thinking unless there's a deal, we're not changing people's driveway.
I don't see where it would be our responsibility on that, just using that. I don't see where it'd be our responsibility in no way,
No, it's not.
nowhere that it'd be the parish's responsibility.
And I think
Just
on
coming
that
off a state
situation,
highway
it's
onto
left
a
up to
private
them.
drive.
Yeah.
They make that 911 call, that's gonna be their responsibility. They ain't gonna have a sign.
Yeah, they may suffer
But
the
somewhere,
consequences.
Right.
somewhere in that, and that might be another good question for Don, somewhere in that language that, they should be required to have that.
The homeowner's not gonna come pay.
Or a
for it.
statement indicating that if it is a private road, it's their responsibility.
Right.
I'm still missing something.
Okay.
We're talking about Melinda hiring somebody to put up signs.
No, we're not doing
No,
that.
We're trying to get out of that. We're
Okay,
trying to
okay.
But the
get out
homeowners
of
are
it.
not gonna come, Austin, who lives in Austin Lane's not gonna pay to put their sign up.
So they
They just won't have
they
one.
won't have one.
And that's bad 911. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just bad first responder. That's bad, because you're looking at the whole parish as a whole. This is just Austin Lane. We're
Right.
talking about thousands,
You gonna
So, but,
Thousands.
Several that ain't
but
gonna
could
do it.
you,
thousands of
but
roads.
could you absorb that cost?
We have been absorbing that cost.
Of hiring someone to do it for you?
I mean, that's up to my board. I mean,
But how can she do that as a parish,
Entity.
as a parish office? If we can't do it, how can she do it?
Well,
That's
like
what I'm
that-
missing. That's what I'm
Because,
missing.
Like at Austin Lane there, if there's only one person living down it,
yeah,
why can't you just have a 911 sign like you and I and everybody else has in front of their house at the end of Austin Lane, if he's the only one down there? At least the ambulance will be able to
I mean,
know
there
where
is
he
an Austin
was.
Lane sign, a green sign that we make or whatever.
Yeah.
Or who's gonna put that sign up? Who's gonna pay for that sign? The homeowners, is the homeowner's responsibility for paying for that sign to put it up? Are we gonna pay for it? Who's gonna put it up? Are we gonna hire somebody to put that sign up? Police jury's not gonna put that sign up. And we're talking thousands of roads
Right.
that,
you'd have
and then
to
you're gonna have a parish that's not gonna have any street signs up.
see, I think where it comes down to, this is just an opinion. I understand what she's saying because there's so many signs that have been put up over the last 30 years. And people aren't gonna pay to put the signs back up, and then you're gonna run into problems with 911. That's where she was using the road department to put the signs up, where Bobby and Bill are saying that they can't do it because it's not a parish road. But is it possible for her organization to hire a private contractor to do that as a non-employee of the parish?
I don't see why she couldn't hire someone to do it.
She can, but what's the purpose of 911? What is 911 for?
For emergency, first
That's right.
responders.
And so those signs are facilitating the purpose of the government unit.
Right.
Therefore, it's a purpose of your government entity, where it's not for the parish.
Right.
Right.
Then, and I might be stressing it here. I still feel like I'm missing something. I'm sorry I keep on about this. So then, what if a section of a private road blows out? And that's a safety issue for the traveling public going down that road.
No, because
It's
it's
a
not a
private
public
road.
road, it's private.
road.
It's a private road.
It's not under public scrutiny.
Doesn't have
So
that
it's
happen before.
so it's a private road
Yeah.
for her to put up a sign on.
Yeah, but
I'm missing that.
it's furthering the purpose of her government entity, which is safety for the public, the 911 identification.
But a blown out road would be
Not if it's on a private road.
No, because it's not for public access.
It's like a driveway.
It's like a
They're
driveway.
like a private driveway.
Well,
So I'm thinking about the neighborhood down at the bottom. I can't remember the name of it. Fellow developed down at the bottom of Queens Road, down there to the left.
right.
And he's got down around Can Street.
Yeah, I know.
That's a private neighborhood and they choose it to be private.
Right,
They choose to live there. They want to live behind a gate.
right. And if their road blows out,
Well, I'm just thinking
they have
about
to take care of it.
911 signs. I mean,
It has to have a 911 sign because it facilitates the safety of the community.
The first responders or emergency you know,
It
Respond. It's got
facilitates
nothing
the
to do
safety
with-
of the people that choose to live there in a private area.
Right.
So why do the taxpayers fund that?
Well, Bill, if what you're saying is true, then does that mean also that we're gonna have to go put up signs on everybody's house who elects not to have a 911 address on their house? Because it's the same thing.
Well,
You still can't get to their house if you
these
can't find
questions
them.
you're asking, in my opinion,
Yeah.
my opinion is like an attorney general's opinion. It's an opinion.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to do some research on this. And you made a good point, but I mean, I remember when I was a Boy Scout master, we went out and painted signs on people's houses, on curbs and stuff, because it was their responsibility to do that.
Right.
But now we're talking about road signs where an ambulance is looking for somebody and you've got multiple people. I'm not saying put it on driveway, we're talking about put it on roads.
Yeah.
And so I think y'all definition of a road is 3 or more houses.
Yeah. Well, when they first put 911, it was anything over 200
Everybody's
foot.
driveway.
They put it
Everybody's
on, it
driveway
was
was
over
named. I don't
200,
do that anymore, because
Right.
I'd be naming.
which got
I
crazy.
don't change people's roads because the Smith Street and the Johnsons moved in. They want to change Smith Street to Johnson Street. We're not doing it.
But we're gonna have to do, or Al and I are gonna have to do a lot of research, because this is not something that we've been focused on, to say the least.
Right.
But
It's
like
gonna
I said,
take-
we're fixing to get focused on it.
Yeah, and do you
'cause I
have,
think
do
it's
you have
something
time
that
to
should be
do that?
addressed.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to, I just want to make sure that, because we, like I say, where that street's at. You know where that street's at. So many turnover on first responders, do not ambulances, fire department.
Right.
There's so much, they don't know that that's.
Right.
And we want to make it to where ambulances, first responders and all that can find these houses. I just need to know who's gonna put them up.
Right.
I can't do it.
Well,
Well,
I understand your point, but I understand that I feel that it's our responsibility on the parish roads to help you out with that.
Mhm.
And, and to me, that's pretty much all we can offer.
Right.
Because
Oh, and I
when we go
appreciate it.
anywhere else,
Yes.
Bobby's question is why we do it on our roads and not do it well, because that's our right of way.
Mhm.
I feel that's our responsibility.
And I agree, it is, and we've
But
been doing that.
when you
Right.
start getting off a state highway, well, anytime you come off a state highway to a parish road, that state DOTD, a guy tell you, we own 2 feet past this white line. That's y'all's.
Right.
Well, your right of way goes 40 feet before it gets to the timber line.
Yeah,
Look
they'll
like you
tell
would
you
take
that.
that 40 feet in, but no, it's 2
They'll
feet off
tell you
that.
that, but go put a sign up on there and see how
Yeah.
quick they rate you up.
But I feel that I want to help us. We should help as much as we can with your department. And it's extra work for us, but I feel it's our responsibility. And as far as your other signs, that's, that's going to be your office. And however you can budget it or handle it or work it out. I mean,
Well,
that's kind of the way I see it.
I think like
To sum it up.
for the new developments, it's gonna be the developer's responsibility and they're gonna pay full price, not if the sign's $175, that's what they gotta
That's
pay
what they
for.
pay. And if somebody steals
And you
their
shouldn't be
sign,
doing it at
that's
a
100.
nonprofit. Maybe you need to make a 20% profit
And then if
margin
they know
on
that,
the
they're gonna be
parts.
watching their signs a little closer.
exactly.
And they're not gonna be letting their kids steal it.
Right.
Exactly, because you shouldn't, go in the red on making the signs. If they
Yeah,
steal 5 of them this year, they should pay for every one of
Yeah.
them.
Because I think our sign budget this last year, we just did that like $15,000.
Right.
On sign materials.
Well, what I'm saying.
And that's with really no cost of labor you're doing.
No, that's
There's
not.
no cost.
That's just
That's you-
sign.
Yeah,
Right, but
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying is if a developer comes in there and it's a 15-letter sign, it's so much per letter, so much for the backer, so much for the pole, plus the
Yeah, I
bracket.
have a list.
Well, if it costs you to make it yourself, if you're spending $100 at that, you should be charging them $125 to put back into the budget. You see what I'm saying? Put it on them initial signs and the replacement signs while they're responsible for it. There should be a profit going back into it. Then she could afford to hire someone to go out and take care of some of these other signs too.
She could, she can,
We passed.
she can enforce that policy.
Right. We have to pass ordinance for the law, but then enforcement's up to them.
Mhm. Yeah, that's,
Any other questions? About the signs?
The same place you was.
well,
Do you, I mean,
Developer's gonna be responsible for putting up their signs and paying for them.
and we'll continue doing
Until 2
ours.
years, until, whether
well,
y'all
it might
take
be
them over
longer
or
than
not.
2 years until they get the road accepted. A lot of these guys put it
Roads
off
took into the road system.
until it's taken in and
Right.
into the road.
And y'all gonna be
system.
putting up in subdivisions anyway.
Well, Melinda, we are,
And
I
know-
mean, this may not be the final word. We're reviewing all of
Right.
this. This is just to tell you today, until we get that review done, what you need to do. So
I see she's
So-
very concerned.
Yeah.
we'll continue to do what we can
It's
on,
not gonna ever come up to be.
Right.
we'll
So,
continue.
so we got the signs covered for now?
Okay.
Or not really? No, I mean,
We'll continue to do what we've been.
because I want to
doing.
move on to this next item.
Let me just finish this one
Okay.
thing.
Go ahead.
Melinda, we're gonna finish, we're gonna continue to do what we've been doing on parish right of ways. Melinda's gonna, if it's on private roads, if a developer needs to put it up, or if it's on like state highways or someplace, one of type signs where 2 or 3 people live down there, it's not a development, then you're gonna have to hire a contractor or something to do that. So that's kind of where it stands right now.
Just a thought.
I'm still say just check and be sure what the parish right of way is.
Yeah. Just a thought. Maybe on your Austin lanes,
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a possibility you might could get maybe an inmate crew to do it? Or would that be a conflict there?
It's our enforcement officer, so, well, it's.
No,
not
no,
ours.
with the sheriff's office.
Cause they pick, like the ones pick trash on the state highway.
Yeah,
Same thing.
that was just a thought.
Does the inmates help put up the signs now?
With
Yeah,
our.
with
our
y'all's,
But,
with y'all's crew.
But they also put out litter crews, the sheriff's department does, and maybe they can take on that
They can do it
responsibility.
on the state highway.
The litter crew.
I know ours put them up on parish roads.
Yeah.
I just heard about saying, the inmates we use, put them up on parish
On
roads.
parish.
We put them on parish roads.
We can't use them, but the crew that they got, Mr. Mitchell, picks up the trash on
No,
it.
the same inmates putting up same signs.
But it's
I got
it's
you.
the
I got
enforcement
you.
officer.
Overseen by parish employees.
I got you. But that was just a thought. Maybe you can
Yeah, I need to
get with
my
the
board
sheriff
and we need to
and
figure
see
out.
if maybe he can offer some assistance on that. I don't know. I'm sorry, but
Okay.
One last thought on signs. If anybody knows of anybody that wants a job, we still have one, we're still one crew short because we don't have anybody to
If
oversee that
anybody
crew.
knows anybody that likes to put up road signs, tell them to contact me.
okay.
How much you pay?
Not near enough.
That applies to our job too. No, we're good.
Okay. Mr. Bill will be getting some info on that. We'll be in contact. All right, let's move on to item 9 is discuss the organization membership and responsibilities of the Sabine Parish Planning Commission. How many members is on this committee, Pete?
Right now, there's 3 of us.
Let me get out my list here. Who are they?
We got Robert Davis.
And where does he live?
His address here is 12071 Texas Highway, Manny, Louisiana.
Is that where he lives?
Yeah, he comes back and forth. He stays there. Well, actually, he stays out at the lake most of the time. I can't think of the name of the address down. I think it's 235 Bailey Chemin Way. He stays out there, or he stays at my house.
Well,
Yeah, he's back and forth. Like he'll be here tonight.
does he does he actually participate in any of the inspections or anything that you're doing, or?
If he's here when I'm here, he does. I do like 99 and 9/10% of the inspections myself.
because trying to get other people to come out, and then it gets confusing. I know what's gotta be done, and if I gotta get Bobby involved, and
Okay, let's go through the
I got a-
people that's on there
I
now.
got a question to him. So when you say he's back and forth, is he a resident of Sabine
yeah,
Parish?
he's a resident.
Okay.
What about Bob Groves?
He hasn't been here in years.
So that's vacant.
The only other, you have Kenneth Wright, and he lives on Parkside Drive. Be there, and then you have me. Those are the three that are involved.
So, Gay Carley, David McDonald, Joe Harwell, or Bob Gardner. None of those.
None of them.
So I guess what we're thinking that we want to do, I know you got Kenneth Wright, but when this thing was set up, we set it up as a 5-member board, right? And we need to get back to a 5-member board. And I guess
Well, even when we had a 5-member board, I never had 5 members. I'll be honest with you. That's why the three of us, we handle it, and we don't have a lot of problems.
So as of right now, you could say that you have 3 members.
Yes.
do y'all have board meetings?
We get together, our meetings are like, depends on what's going on. If we have something coming up, we put a meeting together, and we get together and sit down and go over the paperwork and.
Somewhere.
Huh?
The board meeting.
They could be, we always use my address and anyone can come to my house. And that's the way it's been for probably, well, let's see, my house is, trying to think how many years we've been doing that, probably about 18 years.
Well, I'd like to come one sometime to see what's going on.
Get your name and address, you call me, and if I got one going on, you can come. You know, because
Is
most
this
of the
a,
time it's paperwork, trying to figure out, it's like I got one I just went through and they had,
And
does this board,
I was looking at his note, at his paper here. It says that as of 91, planning commission is 7 members.
I thought we
well, that's
reduced it
because
to
they were trying to
5.
get where we would have 5.
That was 5 in the beginning and
They went to
Changed
7
it to
because we couldn't.
Change to
we
7
couldn't-
in 91.
Because we could never get people to show up. They changed it to 7, but it never could even get 7 to come.
So as of right now, your resolution 2422 says it's 7 members unless you change it back to
Right.
5.
Well, Bill, as I guess we consider the committee, the planning commission, a committee of the police jury, or is that, so it has to go by open meeting rules? So it needs to be advertised or anything like that? So I guess that's where we're coming from here, is we need to put this back into some kind of a formal type committee to where we have committee meetings, public knows about it, they can talk about it. And so in saying that, do we need to furnish, can those committees, should they meet here at the courthouse? Is that a
That's
good?
the way it was years ago. Then they did away with it because no one was coming. Give me that AG opinion.
My opinion or the AG opinion?
That's fine, AG opinion.
My opinion is it needs to be here. It needs to be public. It needs to be advertised, and it needs to be regular.
Yeah, some kind of, what do you call it, regular, quarterly, or?
Well,
That's whatever y'all decide. But I mean, the thing about it is you're gonna have people that want things done. I mean, I think you should probably have a monthly meeting.
Yeah, especially, and then if you need something more urgent, you can have a special call or something, but. So I think, we've asked people through the radio station to put their names in a hat. So we keep a list here possibly of people that might be interested in serving on boards.
I've got a list on my computer.
So we might want to start contacting those people. But Pete has been carrying the load, and it's a volunteer deal, no pay involved. Pete uses his own vehicle a lot to run back and forth to these subdivisions. And I I don't think that's fair.
Well, I do get mileage, so
You-
I know if
you-
one board
so-
member, one.
So
planning
have you
commission
been
member,
turning,
they
have you been
approved it for
turning
it.
those miles or something?
I do it about every 3 months. I've been turning it in.
Okay. So I think I once again want to thank Pete for what he's doing, but I like to see it get a little bit more formal. And I think one of the first reviews that board should do is to go over the ordinances and the meetings or specifications and discuss those and make recommendations to the jury on what needs to change.
Well, what happened in the past every time is that they come up with some stuff, and that's why the jury just told me to run it the way it was being run, because they didn't want the hassle, because people were coming in with ordinances that they wanted people to paint their houses, they wanted different things done, and they want to put zoning in and regulate businesses. I mean, it got to be.
Yeah, we don't want to get that involved, but we need to be a professional organization
Right.
here, so.
That all changed when we changed the name from Planning and Zoning Commission to Planning Commission.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that had nothing to do with this. This was all after that.
So who appoints these members? The parish government appoints them?
I think
or
it's like any other board, they submit names and we approve them, right?
all members?
Yeah.
All the members of
Yeah.
this board?
Yeah.
And I think at one time, were these things set up to where they serve so many years and they rotate?
They were at one time, and then they just went, one time I came in to be reviewed, and they said, we'll just put you on there until you want to get off.
Yeah, and
That's the way it was
I
left.
think there are 4 years. It had to be a
4-year term.
Yeah.
well, people like Kenneth Wright, for instance, and I appreciate those guys serving.
Yeah.
Have they actually been approved by the board or anything, or?
By what, the jury?
I mean, the jury?
Yeah, they're the ones that put them on.
Yeah, okay. So I guess we need to see about forming a board and see about getting a group of people. And I guess, is that in our ordinance that we do a 7-member board? Is
Well,
that,
unless we, in that ordinance there, 91 said 7, but, we would have to rescind that ordinance and make it a 5-member board if that's what,
Right.
if that's what.
That's up to you guys.
The committee would, and all we doing is making recommendations to the full board, so.
Right.
well, I think there's going to be probably several things that we want to change in our ordinance or resolution. And so I would think that we would just informally try to get up to at least 5 members right now. And not really rescind any ordinance until we kind of get all of our total things that we want to do. We don't want to keep rescinding every time we want to change something. So once we go through our total review of this commission, then we'll make one change.
I think the first thing we need to do is get down and look at all of the pre-existing resolutions and put them in a binder.
Yeah.
And get everything together. I think each person that is appointed as a member of this board needs to get a copy of that binder.
I agree.
So everybody's familiar with what the law or what the regulations are.
And they'll need to appoint a chairman of that board. So
I feel you'll have a better chance of getting 5 members than you will 7.
that's why I said, let's shoot for 5.
Hey.
And they do need, I feel like these guys do need to, if they're going to be on the board, they need to be able to make board meetings. And I
Yes.
kind of agree, if you don't make 2 of them in a row, you ought to be off the board.
I agree with you.
And there ought to be a regular meeting. All that needs to be spelled out on the regularity of the meetings and so forth. So,
Yeah. Unless there's a illness or something like that, but other than that, if they're going to serve on the board, they need to be really involved in it. If not, you just got a list of names on it.
Yeah.
You don't really have a committee. So
yeah, I
I
mean,
agree with
these
you.
people, they need to, you just send a person out there without knowing anything about what they're doing. They'd be making a lot of mistakes, I would think. So, if they sent me out there to try to tell the developer what he needs to do, I'd be
That's what.
putting out a lot of bad information. So I think whenever you get board members in there, they need to go through some type of education on this. I mean, Pete seems to be the most knowledgeable. Lewis is knowledgeable on this. I mean, we need to bring them up to speed so that they can not just be voices. Pete's doing all the work, and maybe they'll assign Pete to be the spokesman to these developers. But they when these things come up, they need to be voted on by the whole board.
Should someone from the 911 board be part of this planning commission board?
I think, and I don't even know. I mean, I don't know if it'd be in
No,
conflict for
no.
the road
Not me.
Would it
department.
be a conflict?
Not me.
Well, I mean, because,
Not me.
I mean, because you're kind of working together, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean,
We had
That would be up to somebody on my board, but not me.
well, you know, I was just, it's just a
Yeah.
thought, you know, because I guess the parish, you know, most of our boards that we have a representative from the police jury that's involved in these boards, which Bird and I are on the North Sabine and different boards. So would Pete be our representative for the parish?
No.
He'd be-
We would have to have
I
a,
think we'd need a juror to be on that.
Well, what about? I mean, I agree. I think a jury would be good on there. Well, I may be short-lived here, but what about somebody like DJ or somebody? I mean, somebody from our
Well, we could appoint DJ.
somebody like them, you know, to represent the board. He's here and he's, you know, represents also the
or Jim,
permit section and so forth. So,
you know, because we talked about Jim actually being involved in the development too, since he's a building code.
Yeah, but
official.
that's got nothing to do with
But
development.
I'm talking about,
You know what I'm saying?
but he would be, we could let him be part of it to represent us.
I-
Because
I-
he'll have more knowledge than I will.
I wouldn't see where Jim would need to be involved with development of land. Because, you know, building a house and development of land are two different,
But he's gonna be there inspecting that house.
well,
Numerous times.
He's gonna be there inspecting those houses.
well,
yeah.
and I'll get back to my kind of opening statement on this. We get people that says, I'm confused on where we go to get our permits, you know, and it gets back to, I guess, a person ought to know, but they may know what permits they need to get, but we need to have some kind of a list. These are, if you're putting in a business, you need to contact this guy for electrical, this guy for planning commission, this guy for, it needs to be.
I think most of the time when someone does call, they do that out of the jury room here, because I'll get a call from the developer. I know Krista, I'll tell them they gotta see Krista. I'll tell them if they need a building permit, they gotta go see Mr. Jim. And then I tell them if they're getting involved in commercial, they go to Krista and she's gonna let you know if she can handle it, because if it gets over a certain gallon, you just gotta go to the state.
What's your
And
thoughts
if
on
it's
that,
got
Lewis?
water lines going in, you gotta go to your representative water company. We tell them all that.
I think it would
A
be
lot of
good to
times
have
when you get these
somebody
people
from
saying
the
that they
jury
don't know
around.
what they're doing, is that
On the
because they don't
board.
want to do it the way it's supposed to be done.
Well, we have somebody from the jury on fire boards and I guess the library board and somebody represents us on, a representative on the tourist commission and so forth, you know, so every board. So I think we need a representative on there. And I mean, whether we nominate somebody from the jury itself or whether we appoint somebody to represent us and report to us like Pete or somebody, but it needs to be somebody that we designate as the parish representative. And I don't know who the other board members ought to be. I guess they ought to be somebody that's recommended by the board. They come to us. Is that the way it usually works?
I don't know.
Yeah, and
Back in the early days, we got, took it to Baton Rouge there, and they said that anyone that's involved in real estate should not be on there. At that time, John Bridges was the only real estate person around here, and he was on there.
You know, it's
And
conflict
they
of
did
interest.
remove him. They said it was a conflict of interest, and they also removed Mr. Palmer, who was a surveyor,
Right,
because they
'cause
said
that
it was conflict of
Your
interest. So
interest, right.
when you start putting in real estate people, then
Well,
you look at that.
It's a conflict of interest every time with real estate agents, because we've had a few of them wanted 2 years ago, and they couldn't. Because there's conflict with that, and like you said, with a surveyor, because that's their professions.
Yeah, I've had other realtors, 2 or 3 of them actually, ask about being on the board. But
Yeah. I
I agree. I think that would be a conflict because there'd be more. I mean, they're trying to sell lots or something,
Right.
and they want to make it easier, whatever's easier to sell lots.
Well, it's not even that they
bad
want to
enough.
sell lots.
So it would also be a conflict for a developer to be on there too.
Yeah, right.
Well, no, they had a developer on there. We got a developer, which was Bob Davis, and that was okayed by the state.
Well, you
at the
can't
time.
you can't regulate yourself, though. I'd say it. I mean, that
You know,
would be
So
conflict.
he's been on there for years, and that was okay, approved by the state at the time. But
Is Davis still a developer?
he hasn't done nothing in ages. I mean, he's still got property out there that could be developed, but he hasn't done the last thing that went through. I don't know how many years ago Bailey Shemin went through.
I think it would be a good idea to have a juror from the police jury to be on this board. Might not know a lot about development, but he can learn and it'd be kind of, oversight for us, just my thought.
Since his board represents the police committee, yeah, I think that's.
Yeah.
what they should do.
So Eric, what do you think?
I know, like I said, we got a lot of work to do, a lot of homework to do here to get all this lined up. I know that, it'd be somebody on this board willing to do it. So. And so, and like I said, we'll just have to go through those names and kind of see. So we definitely, there's no real estate, right? No real estate on it. And like I said, that's the thing. You don't want to have a conflict of interest on anything. I know, Mr. Hughes would like to be on this board.
Well,
But-
he may be our representative.
But then, and I commend him for wanting to be involved in it, but I still say that since Bobby is going to be part of a development that is going to be at some point in time adopted into the parish system, and he's the supervisor, I figure that's kind of a conflict.
I think, just listen right now,
Yeah.
I talked to K-Wall about this because I've always thought, I work with Pete,
Yeah.
and I've always thought that Pete is carrying a heavy load. And we interact on most things that come up, but I've always felt like that it would be really nice if we were, the road department, if we were included, maybe a little bit sooner, just for the knowledge, that we would have. I don't know, I like information.
Yeah.
But sitting here now, I'm thinking that I would just like to be at the meetings. And I think I would get all I need there.
Yeah, I think
You want to be,
Yeah.
you want to be the,
I'll just be present.
you want to be the commenter, huh?
No, I'll just sit and absorb. But I do want to be more involved. And this is awesome what we're doing today.
Yeah.
I like this.
Well, I've said it, communications is the best tool.
Yeah.
I mean, it just,
So Pete, if you have, I guess in trying to get this name, we need to come up with a list of names.
Yeah.
And we'll go through what we have here.
Okay.
If any of us, we can
Yeah.
give this to the
I mean,
full
if-
board. If they
If
have
you wanna
anybody
run
they'd like to
names by me and
nominate
see
for
if
it.
I know them, that's fine too. I don't have a problem with that.
So we'd like to come up with a list of people, either from people we
Yeah.
recommend, we could look up for a jury.
I
He
mean,
can
years
fill one of
ago, we
those
had some
positions.
judges come through.
and like I said, I know it's hard to get people to volunteer to be on boards.
Yeah.
But, one of my, and just my personal opinion, I would like for them to be a resident of Sabine Parish.
I
If they are
think
on
they
this
should
board,
be, yeah.
so. Any other discussions on this? No other discussion, questions, Mike?
No, I think just to sum it up, you are going to start going back through and trying to identify all the documentation from the past, putting it in some kind of a
There's a
binder.
bunch of it where they just switch things in the middle and I know it.
And then we'll meet again to try to go through all of that, see, come up with some, changes that we possibly need to make. Meanwhile, we'll be trying to look for people for board meeting or to, and Miss Melinda knows what she needs to do on the sign. Yes, for the time being.
Yeah. I wanna- Find somebody that likes to put
But
up
I'm
a sign.
still gonna be thinking about that.
Yeah.
To see if we can, just ideas, they may work and they may not.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, I have
We adjourn.
got a motion by Mr. Byrd, second by Mike that we adjourn. Meeting adjourned.
Aye.
You can stay.
We don't.